Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Caitlin, your geeky girlfriend, and in tonight's video, I'm going to be doing another book review. The book that I'm going to be reviewing marks number 8 of my 15 book challenge for 2023. And this one is a movie book. This is a book that became a movie. So I've been doing a lot of those recently on the channel. So thank you all so much for your views, and those of you who keep subscribing and keep coming back to the channel. It means a lot, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that red button and subscribe. You can hit the bell to sign up for all my notifications. I've got videos coming every week now, so I'm finally at a consistent pace. So thank you all so much for your support and for being here and following along on this journey, my Bookie Babe series. So tonight's video, we're going to be reviewing the book Just One Day by Gayle Foreman. I mentioned in my If I Stay review, if you missed that one, you can scroll down, go back and see my If I Stay full book review as well, because I read that one this year too. There's actually a snippet of Just One Day in If I Stay. So when I started reading it, I recognized the movie because I had seen the movie before reading the book. I know, cardinal sin, but it is what it is. The movie has Anne Hathaway in it, and I believe it was on Netflix for a while. I'm not sure if it still is because I watched it many years ago. And I thought the movie was just okay, but I thought maybe the book will be better. And I read this snippet and I thought, this book sounds really familiar. I think I already have this book, and I did. So I took it off the shelf and it became the next one on my list. So Just One Day by Gayle Foreman. And like I said, this book was made into a movie. And so the premise of this book and the movie that came after it is that Allison is on a trip that her parents bought her for her graduation present. She just graduated high school, so she's 18. Her and her best friend go to Europe on this grand tour that her parents paid for as her graduation present. And they decide on a whim that they're going to ditch the tour, and they're just going to, they didn't decide on a whim. They have plans to ditch the tour and go off on their own, to do a last minute sightseeing. And as they're boarding the train, they meet a man named William. And he says, well, why don't we go to Paris? And Allison's like, okay. So she decides on a whim to go to Paris, has her best friend cover for her, and the whole premise of the book is that they have this miraculous love story and all these happenstance things that happen over 24 hours in Paris. She has this wonderful day, and then a series of events happen and they become separated. And the whole book is pretty much about her remembering that one day, trying to relive or forget that one day, and then getting back to him, finding him again. Because she's from America, so she has to go home and go back to life. She has to go to college and all these other things. So the book kind of follows this whole journey of the day itself, reliving, trying to forget, and then finding Willem again. And I recall the movie being very different from the book. If I would have read the book and then saw the movie, I probably would have been disappointed, because what I remember from the movie is not what translated into the book at all. Now, mind you, I did watch the movie several years ago, and I only remember bits and pieces of it, so I felt like I was reading the book with a fresh set of eyes. The book starts off very strong. I was very drawn in the beginning. The first few chapters when she is, when she meets Willem and they're in Europe and she's kind of talking about her trip and all of these things. And, I do kind of relate to Allison in the beginning. She's on this trip that's paid for by her parents, and she just kind of wants to, she kind of at some point is kind of over it. She just wants to get over it. She's like, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to move on. This was not what I thought it was going to be. And I think that's a very realistic expectation, or a very realistic portrayal of travel. I know a lot of times I get my hopes really high for things, and then they just don't live up to the expectation. That was kind of what we experienced with Savannah, Georgia. I had the same type of realization that Allison has, so I do get that vibe, and I understand that feeling of you're really excited and then it just doesn't live up. And that's kind of her summary of her entire trip to London and everything. She's just kind of like, it's okay. And then she meets Willem. He takes her to Paris, shows her like more of the inner workings of European culture because he's from Europe. So, you know, riding around towns on bikes and little canal boats, like all these experiences that you would not get on a like tour. And I think in terms of a book about travel, that's something that this book does really well, is it describes travel and different types of travelers very well. You have those people who are like, I want to stick to the itinerary and I want to go on this tour and I want to see this, this, this. And then you have those more go with the flow people who are like, oh, I'm just going to walk around and see what I get into. And Allison thought she was the first, discovers that she's more of the second. And I think the older that I get, I relate to that as well. So that's part number one. Part number one of this book is enticing. You want this chemistry and this relationship to build, and you want it to grow, and you want it to become something, and as you're reading, you know that this is going to be a pretty serious thing, and you're like, okay, I want, you know, there's this build-up, this tension, and then part 2 of the book happens where she wakes up the morning she's supposed to go back to America, and Willem is gone. She doesn't know what happened. She thinks he left her. And then that goes into part 2. Part 2 is Allison's downward spiral and depression and she is depressed. She meets all of the qualifications and signs and symptoms of clinical depression. And the author does a good job of outlining that. However, this is going to sound very insensitive of me, but it is a book. These characters are fictitious, so it's okay. But as somebody who has bouts of depression from time to time, it kind of bothered me that Allison did not go seek help. She was very okay to just wallow in her self-pity. And I think to a certain extent that is okay for some people, but you also have to want to help yourself and want to, like, I guess, find the joy again. I don't know. I just, her whole, like, she spends several months in this, like, oh, he left me, oh, I hate college, it's hard, blah. And it's just, like, she's on this journey of self-discovery and all that, and I get that, but I feel like she could have realized it a little bit quicker, and she very much plays the victim of, like, her and her friend, like, her and Melanie not being friends anymore, and, oh, what's it, you know, I don't know, there were parts of it that were just very annoying, and to be quite frank, I know that might be insensitive, but like I said, these are fictitious characters, these are not real people, so, then we get into part 3, which is part 3 is when Allison decides, okay, I am, yes, I have been depressed. It's because I'm not this person that I've built up to be, and I want to be this other person. I want to be this more carefree, go with the flow type of person. And she's like, daggone it, I'm going back to Paris, and I'm going to find Willem. And so she does, and it's great. And she has that kind of carefree personality of like, I just want to see what happens. I'm going to see where the wind takes me. I'm going to buy a ticket to a random place. Like, she embodies everything that she kind of got from William. So it is a journey of growth, and it is a journey of self-discovery, and I like that for her. But, like, she kind of is self-sabotaging a lot through, especially the middle part of the book, and I was just like, come on. Like, I was just kind of over it. So then we get into part 3, and we go through this whole time. The book is dwindling down in pages, and then finally, what you wanted, you get at the very end, and then the book is done. So there's not really a lot of closure in the book. There is a sequel. I think it's called Just 1 Year. It's mostly told from Willem's point of view, though. And I have not read that one. I don't own that one. But it's told from Willem's point of view, and it shows, like, Just 1 Day is kind of Allison's whole year, and Just 1 Year is Willem's whole year and his perspective of the whole story. And so maybe for some of you that would be enticing. Overall, I was a little bit disappointed in the book because the majority of, like, all of part 2, I just was kind of like, meh. This book took me a lot longer to read than I had hoped, and a lot longer to read than I had wanted. Took me a long time to finish it, even though I was, like, so close. I just could not, like, find, not the motivation, but just, like, I don't know, it just read really slow for me. I wanted it to read faster than it did. Overall, I would say I give this book like a 3 or a 4. The first part alone, I would say, is worth like a 5 or a 6, and then the whole rest of the book kind of went downhill for me. So yeah, I'm gonna probably give it a 4 overall. Like a 6 for part 1, a 1 for part 2, and then maybe like a 5 to 6 for part 3. So yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 4 overall. It's very meh, very mid, as the kids today say. It's just okay. The movie is also just okay. So if you're looking for an okay book that led to an even more okayer movie, give this one a read. So not my favorite, not terrible. I did finish it, and like I said, the first part alone is worth the read. And there is a sequel, and maybe Just One Year is a little bit better, because now that I know the story, it would be interesting to see his perspective. I don't know. Compared to If I Stay, I did like If I Stay better. I read If I Stay quicker. And comparing two works by the same author, those are my thoughts. So that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. And stay tuned for my next review in this Bookie Babe series. And because it's coming very soon, because I read the next book very, very quickly. And I had to finish this one to get to the next one. So because I'm in a book club now, so I'm going to be reading a lot of new things, and I'm excited for that, and it's just a cool little thing that I've picked up, and it's with, like, my coworkers and stuff, so it's just super fun, and it's a cool, like, bonding, kind of getting to read some different things that I might not always read, because we're taking turns picking the books and whatever. So yeah, stay tuned for all of the reviews for that. Stay tuned to find out if I finish my 15-book challenge, and stay tuned for all of the videos coming your way right here on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.